Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the All-Star game because now it's time for week 2 of your fantasy matchup. With games going until just Wednesday last week, your fantasy matchup continues this week with 7 more days of games. So let's go ahead and get you through with a win this week as we take a look at some add and drop options. I'm going to take a look at the teams in action this week. Everyone you'll see except for the Golden State Valkyries and the Connecticut Sun have 3 games this week. So that's our first nay on the schedule, the Valkyries and the Sun, because, well, they play one less game than everyone else this week. If you're looking for players to pick up Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Connecticut and Golden State are in action, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you'll have to look elsewhere if you want to get points from streaming players. Also, the Sun have a tough home schedule with the Sparks on Thursday and the Valkyrie on Sunday. Golden State, of course, also has a tough schedule, travel-wise at least, as they play Dallas and San Francisco Friday night at 7 o'clock local time. Then they head to Connecticut to play the Sun on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, or the equivalent of 10 a.m. Pacific, where the Valkyrie reside. I don't think that schedule works well for Anissa Morrow, Olivia Nelson-Adoda, or JC Sheldon if I'm looking at the Sun. I think both Kate Martin and maybe Monique Billings off the bench have a little bit of intrigue on Sunday, as the Valkyrie might be a little winded and playing deeper into the rotation. Other than that, if you've got your Valkyries, probably rolling with them. You just have to wait till the end of the week. Jumping over to a big positive I like in the schedule this week, it's the New York Liberty. I like the Liberty's players this week as they get to recover at home after the All-Star break. And this is a complete flyer for today, but guard Maureen Johannes has big boom potential whenever there's a blowout. And I think Tuesday's game versus Indiana has blowout potential. So if you're really looking for a streamer, Johannes is my flyer pick. The Minnesota Lynx, just like the Liberty, also are at home with 3 games. Nafisa Collier, Courtney Williams, and Kayla McBride were all in Indy for the All-Star break. So I think the Lynx need a week without travel as much as any team. Well, we mentioned the Indiana Fever just a moment ago, and yeah, I think there's blowout potential for this Tuesday game against the Liberty, and as a whole, I don't like the Fever's schedule this week. No Caitlin Clark against the Liberty, and not to mention, everyone for this Fever team was involved one way or another with All-Star Weekend, with it being in Indianapolis. So with Clark or without, I'm predicting a post-All-Star malaise for the Fever and some low-scoring offensive outputs. But as long as Clark is out, grab Ari McDonald if you can. She's still available in 86% of league, as she's a high upside streamer anytime Clark finds herself on the bench. 2 more schedules I don't necessarily love this week. The Atlanta Dream are all on the road and taking on Phoenix and the Lynx as 2 of the toughest games this week. Now, the Mercury matchup does look a little more favorable if Satu Sabali continues to sit out, but she did practice on Monday, so it seems like she's trending to return for the Mercury. And then the Seattle Storm, home in the Pacific Northwest on Tuesday, in the Midwest on Thursday, and on the East Coast by Saturday. The Storm already have recovering All-Stars in Skylar Diggins, Gabby Williams, and Nneka Agumake, and now face a tough 3-game stretch from a travel standpoint alone, because remember, those All-Star players just came from Indianapolis this weekend as well. And then finally, the LA Sparks. I don't know whether to call this schedule good or bad. I think it really depends on what you're looking at. 3 games is great, but all are on the road. And according to the home and away splits for the Sparks this season, it could be a bad fantasy week for Kelsey Plum and De'Erica Hamby, and a good week for Azurá Stevens and Rakia Jackson. Let's take a look. You'll see the home splits for Kelsey Plum. She is playing much better at home, almost 2 points per game more, shoots 8 percentage points better from beyond the arc, makes almost 1.5 more threes per game as a result. Now you will see she gets to the line at a significantly higher rate on the road, steals and assists, and I don't have numbers to account. Let's jump over to De'Erica Hamby, where we see she also drops about 2 points per game when she's on the road versus at home. That being said, she does shoot a higher percentage, so that might be a bit of an aberration. And then let's jump over to the players who I say maybe in for good weeks on the road, as Azurá Stevens goes to 16 points per game on the road off of 58% shooting from the field and 41% from 3. Let's compare that to 13.5 points per game at home and shooting 15 points lower on their home court at Climate Pledge. Everything else pretty similar. And jumping over to Rakia Jackson, a similar trend, 14 points on the road, 11.8 at home, shooting about 3-4 percentage points better from the field on the road. And most of that's from the 3-point line, as you will see. Whoa, 34% from 3 on the road, 15% at home. And then the numbers for the teams go like this. Los Angeles is 8th in the WNBA in scoring at home with 82.5 points per game, and they do it on 42.8% shooting from the field, make about 9.1 threes per game, get to the free throw line 21 times, grab 33 rebounds, assist on 21 baskets, and combine for 11.7 stocks. That's blocks plus steals. On the road, the Sparks are second in scoring at 84 per game. LA is actually one of the best traveling offenses in the WNBA, it turns out. Their field goal percentage goes up to 47% from 42 at home, but they do make significantly fewer threes, and their stocks fall to 9.7 per game. So it's really a mixed bag at what you're looking at for stats. But if you got a shooter like Azarea Rakia, I'm not feeling too bad about them going on the road this week. Now let's hop over to the section I have been doing these last few weeks, ads and drops. When we're looking at add drop players, we're putting the cutoff at 75% rostered rate as a player that we figure pretty much everyone already has. So Dejanay Carrington up to Asia Wilson. We figure pretty much everyone has them, probably not on your waiver wire, and anything below 75% is fair game. So let's go down the list. We've got Dewana Bonner, we've talked about her. Nalissa Smith, talked about her. Tiffany Hayes was brought up recently. Cameron Brink, of course, hasn't played yet. Elizabeth Williams, Tiara McCowan, Aaliyah Edwards, Olivia Nelson-Adoda, Sammy Whitcomb, Anissa Morrow, Sophie Cunningham, Teme Fikbenle, Stephanie Dolson, Lexi Hall, Bridget Carlton, Maisha Hines-Allen, Monique Billings, Lee Yi-Roo, Janelle Salon, Haley Van Lith, and well, that's the end of the list, as after we get down below 15%, we're really digging deep into the rosters. Among those players under 15% rostered, I've already mentioned Ari McDonald as someone you want for this Tuesday game. Rachel Banham continues to run the point guard position for Chicago, and with Angel Reese back, you hope the Sky are able to get a little bit of a semblance of an offense going with their Tuesday game at Minnesota. Both of those players still big buys for me. With all of those players discussed already, feel free to go back to a previous episode and take a look for more information on them. But this week, just a couple of players I want to focus on beyond the teams. We mentioned the Seattle Storm not having a great schedule. That does not bode well for Erica Wheeler this week, rostered in about 60% of leagues. Wheeler's a player I just traded away at the deadline because I was guard heavy, and Wheeler was the streakiest among the bunch of guards that I had. Her high point for July, 39 fantasy points. Her low point, 13. It can be a bit boom or bust for Wheeler. She's not a main option on Seattle. She's not necessarily a player they're looking to get into a rhythm early on. And it's someone I'm worried about with a tough schedule on the road for Seattle this weekend. On the flip side, Leonie Fiebich, a forward for the New York Liberty, rostered in about 50% of leagues, is someone I really like for this week. Taking on Indianapolis on Tuesday, Fiebich is just 5 games back from returning from Eurobasket, had just 13 points against Indianapolis in the game prior to the break, but against Atlanta, the game before that, and Las Vegas, the game prior, 35 and 34 points. Fiebich is a player that you can look to get points from in a variety of ways. Of course, she scores a ton, gets a lot of rebounds, but also a stock candidate, whether that's in steal or blocks, and can also pick up 3 or 4 assists for you in a given game. And then finally, I'm going really deep into the percentage rostered for this one. Haley Jones, just 0.4 rostered. This means she's available in 99.6% of leagues. Why do I bring up Haley Jones? Well, because the Dallas Wings are a bit of a mess at this point, and Haley Jones had 27 fantasy points in 19 minutes against the Las Vegas Aces in the contest just prior to the All-Star break on July 16th. Now, Jones isn't someone I'm wanting you to go add, but just put them on the interested list. You can go there and click that right there, and now you'll be following that player. Because her minutes have been trending up, just as Isaiah James's minutes have been trending down off the bench for the Wings. We talked about Isaiah a couple of weeks ago, and if she gets minutes, I like what James can offer, but Haley Jones in the last 3 games has cut into those minutes, and especially if you're in a deeper league, 8 teams, maybe even 10 teams, Haley is someone you want to monitor because in a few weeks, it may be something worth looking at rostering. And that's it for this week. Happy to have another full week of WNBA action on the schedule. Good luck to all of you out there in your second week of this matchup, and have a great day.